Hi everybody, Simon here. So tips and tricks for GCSE maths. This is the fifth one in the series and we're just going to talk about trig today. I'm going to show you my method of doing trig. I think it works really nicely. We call it 4 steps to success and it works for every trig problem that you could come across. Okay, so let me start with what you need to learn and remember. So what I'm going to show you today is going to be 4 steps to success. The 4 steps are label sides, choosing the ratio, filling in the tricky triangle, and calculating. So those 4 things need to be remembered, and as you're going through the problems, you're going to be ticking them off in your head. Okay, the next thing you need to know is Sohcahtoa. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, tan is opposite over adjacent. If you lay it out in the triangles like I've got there, then that's going to be really helpful as we're going through these problems. So what I would suggest you do is pause the video at this point and copy that down. That's what you need to remember. Everything else is about applying it. Okay, so let's apply the 4 steps to success to some problems. Okay, so there we go. The first job in a trig problem, I suppose, is to decide that it is trig as opposed to Pythagoras or finding the area of a triangle or something like that. So we won't talk about that today. At this point we have already decided this is a trig problem. Okay, so we're trying to find that side x. We're given one side and we're given one angle. So that is a typical trig problem. Okay, so let's have a look. So the first thing we're going to do on our list is to label the sides. So what we need to do is to label our sides. We're going to label them with opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. So my recommendation is we start with a H. H is hypotenuse and it's the longest side. Longest side. It's always the one opposite the right angle. We'll stick an H in there. It's a good place to start. Okay, the next thing we need to do is we need to do O. O stands for opposite. It is opposite the angle that we're using. Not the one opposite the right angle, the one opposite the angle that we're using. So we'll go O is over there. Adjacent means next to. That's what adjacent means. It's there. It's next to the angle. So that's the other one. Okay. There we go. So that's the first part of our 4 steps to success done. Right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to choose the ratio. We need to decide whether this is a sine, a cosine, or a tangent problem. Okay, sin, cos, or tan. Right, so we think about which 2 sides are we interested in. Okay, so we're trying to find that one. So we're definitely interested in that one. That's the one we're trying to find. That's the one we're given. So we're also interested in that one. This one here, hypotenuse, we're not trying to find it, we're not given it, we're not interested. Okay, so opposite and adjacent. We look across our list, we can look over here. This one's got a hypotenuse in it, so it's not that one. That one's got a hypotenuse, that one's got an opposite, and that one's got adjacent. It's a tan problem, so we are going to use the tan ratio. And a very handy thing to do is just write tan equals O over A. Okay, choose ratio, done. Right, tricky triangle. Right, we're now going to lay this problem out in a tricky triangle. And what I mean by that is I'm going to copy this out, okay? So I've got my tricky triangle. Sorry about the drawing here. It's going to look a little bit scruffy, difficult with the mouse. I'm going to lay it out like that. I'm going to write tan in there. I'm going to write O up there, and I'm going to write A down there. That's that tricky triangle, that one there. That's the one I want. And now I'm going to start filling in my numbers. Okay, so the O is the X. The opposite side is the X. I'm going to put an X in there. A is 5. The one in the bottom left where I've got the tan, this one's always the angle. The one in the bottom left is always going to be the angle. So that's tan 42. And the reason I do this because it tells me whether to do a times or a divide. So because I am working across my tricky triangle, the x is that times that. Now, just a little tip here. When you are typing this into a calculator, remember to put the bracket after the number. Things can go wrong with that if we don't put this closing bracket here, things can go wrong. So I've typed that into a calculator. I'll leave you to do that yourself, and we come to 4.5. I'll do it to one decimal place. So 4.5 centimeters. We have a look at we go back and then have a look at the triangle. We think, yeah, that seems okay. If it had come to 120 centimeters, then we would have known that it was wrong. But that seems like a number roughly in the right area, so that's okay. Okay, so that's our answer. Let's do another one. Okay, let's speed up. Let's do it a little bit quicker. So we're going to label the sides. H is the long one, opposite the right angle. O, opposite the angle. So we're looking at the angle opposite. Adjacent is the other one. That's label sides, done. Let's choose the ratio. So we're interested in the H. We're trying to find that X. We're interested in the A because we're given it. The O, not so interesting to us. We look across our list. We've got A and H. Nope. Yes, it's this one here. It's cos is equal to A over H. Okay. Draw our tricky triangle. Cos is A over H. So that's what we want. We'll fill in our values. So the cos, the angle is 72. The A is 15. And the H is the X. Now this time, the X is down here. This tells us something. This tells us that this is a divide. So we need to find the X, we need to divide 15 by cos 72. So X is equal to 15 divided by cos 72. I'm going to type that into a calculator. I'm going to use the fractions button. If you've got a calculator which has a fractions button, I would be using it. If you don't have a calculator that has a fractions button, I would buy a calculator that has a fractions button because they're incredibly useful. Okay, that comes to 48.5 centimeters. Okay. Right, let's do one more, because there's one more type of problem that comes up in Trig, and that's the ones where we're looking to find the angle. So this time I'm given two of the sides, but it's the angle that I'm trying to find. Okay, I've just turned this around just to make it look a little bit more interesting, because sometimes that happens in exams, just to make things a little bit more difficult. But what you'll see this time is that the 4 steps still apply. It's still label, choose, tricky triangle, calculate. Okay, so let's start with our label. So opposite the right angle, H. Opposite the angle is O. The other one is A, so that must be that one there. Okay, we choose our ratio. Most definitely interested in that one, and most definitely interested in that one. So we look across our list. It's O and H. So yeah, okay. So that one's sine. That one's sine. So we're going to use our sine ratio. Let's just jot that down as a little aid to remind us. And we're going to fill in our tricky triangle. So got sine is O over H. Okay, so this time, don't forget the angle is always down in the bottom left. So this time the angle part is this strange symbol here. We call that theta. Theta. So we write sine of theta. The O is 3 and the H is 7. So we read that off the tricky triangle just exactly like it is. So I've got sine of theta is equal to 3 over 7. Okay, now what do we do on these? So this is where we're trying to find the angle. Now this is a little extra thing to remember, that if we know that sine of theta equals something or sine of x equals something, we need to use this sine to the -1 button. Okay, now the sine to the -1 is the shift of the sign. So we need to write it like that. So I'm going to type that into the calculator. I'm going to type shift sign and I'm going to open the brackets, enter the fraction in. That's going to take a little bit of practice, but I'm sure once you do a couple you will get the hang of that. And the answer comes to 25.4 degrees. Okay, so 3 different trig problems, all of them using exactly the same 4-step method, using the same set of 3 tricky triangles. So what you need to remember is what's in the top right there, and you need to practice, 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 because it can go wrong at any of those 4 stages, and as long as you get the 4 right, you won't make the mistakes on these trig problems, which are among the hardest things that you do on the foundation paper at GCSE. Okay, good luck. I hope you found that useful, and I'll see you for the next tips and tricks.